everyone. In May of 1978, I took probably what I would consider my most important date. And I know you're thinking, he's going to say, he met his wife. The love of his life on this date in 1970. No. I became aware of my professional goal. And that, of course, happened because I went to meet this young lady's father. And she said, "Daddy, I would like you to meet the next great American historian." He looked at me and he said, "Pleasure. You're studying history, huh?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Too bad, no future in it." I wanted to argue with him about this because there is a future in history. And of course, one of the first, I never got the chance because first of all, that was his dismissal note, so he walked away. And secondly, the date didn't go well because, of course, you know what I was doing? I was worried about, the whole time I kept saying, how can you say something like that when everything that you are, all of your opportunities, all of your chances were made for you by people, generations of people who came before you, who struggled to make things happen, who set the stage for you, and you can say something like that? Our future is determined by our past. I wanted to get into a discussion about the grand cycles of history. I didn't get the chance. Like you, I grew up surrounded by history. The image in back of me is a courthouse column from the Cumberland County Courthouse in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, which during the American Civil War was shelled, by the way, by the Confederate Horse Artillery of Fitzhugh Lee. And of course, you can see the date stamped on it. It's July 1st, 1863. Fitzhugh Lee was intent on shelling Carlisle a bit more, but he got an urgent message that he was needed 30 miles south at a small crossing called Gettysburg and had to take off at that point. Also, as a youngster, I could remember my father always telling me, don't forget the people in your community who have made a lot of things possible. I know you're not thinking this when you take the lawnmower to our mechanic. The mechanic, by the way, was an unassuming young man. Well, he wasn't young at the time. An unassuming middle-aged man who had survived Iwo Jima. Down the road from us, there was a very, very pleasant, talkative farmer who had spent some interesting moments as a medic on the second wave at Omaha Beach. Not far from that, I had this very wonderful friend who for years I didn't know, who was a county agent. I didn't know that he had been a B-24 Liberator pilot in the European theater. Those are the people who give us identity, who help our communities understand that there is a deep root system. And one of the things that came to me as I was thinking about becoming a professional was, of course, how could we take that and make that into a life's work? And how can that life's work impact communities and our young citizens? How can we influence citizens to understand that they take this matrix of good work, of solid citizenship, and extend that into the future, the giants that were among us? And of course, part of it was because I decided to go from being a straight historian into a teacher. And I made that decision for a couple of reasons. You're all familiar with some variant of this joke, I'm sure, but one of the issues, of course, that came into light was, and you've heard this joke, I'm sure, many times, was why is a historian's or history major's car less aerodynamic than other majors' cars? Because there's a lot of drag from the pizza delivery sign on top. So I was thinking about things that I could do that would help immensely with young people, and I became a teacher. And as a group, I was fortunate enough to fall in with a group of teachers who were very far-visioned. And one of the things that they did was propose a mantra that looked something like this. This pretty much captured a lot of my philosophy. We do indeed have a lot of stories that are in our background that make us a member of that club of giants. People who allow us to see all the way to the past and also see the possibilities of the future. And of course, I was game. I was young, a young teacher. Why don't we do this? What happens if we use this as our credo? What happens if we decide that we can take something like this and transform students into the learning center in which they take accountability for what they are learning and also what they propose to learn, and also keep in mind that they are part of this long story that we're developing. And one of the things that I've noticed over the years, in 30-some years of education, is that some of our students do some truly extraordinary things. One of our good students at a small rural district in south central Pennsylvania was very interested in the American Civil War and his ancestors' role in it. And he is now, because of some projects that he accomplished in our focused history, he became now a chief historian at the Capitol Preservation Committee in Harrisburg, where he is in charge of the 400 Civil War battle flags that are currently owned by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And one of the nice things now is he passes on this knowledge to other students who come to see him, who want to see some of these battle flags. This is the 149th Pennsylvania Volunteers, who had a very, very rough day at the first day of the Battle of Gettysburg. It's a 6-foot by 6-foot hand-painted silk flag. He's in charge of the care and conservation of those 400 flags. And he brings students in constantly to see their heritage at such a place. And then, of course, students don't always have to have a simple textbook knowledge of history. Sometimes they want to be part of it. So some of our students have done some remarkable work in the past as living historians. In this case, learning to be an 18th century Shawnee involves quite a few things. Learning Shawnee is one of them. Some of these Shawnee impersonators, or I should say historians, are so good that the Shawnee Nation have adopted them now as honorary members of the tribe. And we also can use the modern forms of technology that are available to us as well. In this case, if we look at some videography samples, some of our students did some very, very exciting work in which they reunited a father and a son who did not really know each other's story well. And of course, the son did not know his father's story very well. And in this case, they ended up having, this photo was taken at the breast of the dam at Poe Valley State Park in central Pennsylvania, not far from where we are now. And the father was a CCC camp attendee for some years and helped to build the dam and the spillway in the background upon which this photo was taken. The film is extraordinary. It was filmed by high school students who were using good video technology and decided they wanted to use this to make a story. I don't know if any of them are going to be in the Ken Burns variety or category, but I think that they're working on it. And of course, another signature thing is when we honor an entire community and we honor the community's roots. This is a World War II memorial, which was conceived, designed, constructed, which of course was a tough thing because I don't know if you've done anything in cold cast bronze, but it's a little tricky. And of course, it was financed by students and it was commemorated with an entire community. There were thousands of people in attendance at this ceremony in a small rural community, which attests to the fact that we still feel that kind of context, that context in which we are all members of a community and this is our heritage. I'm currently at a suburban school district, Mount Lebanon School District in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and we decided that one of the best things we can do for heritage education is to start early. So in second grade, all of our second grade students take part in what's called a community partnership in which they engage with the Pittsburgh History and Landmarks Foundation, and they do walking tours of the community. It's not just historical, it's also architectural. What is it that makes our houses different? How do we recycle buildings over time for different uses to reflect what we do? We don't just use buildings, we also recycle them. The idea is that as they get older, they will be able to take this knowledge, this ability, the sense that they are part of the community, and they will transform that into good, solid citizenship practice. sometimes it comes down to meeting some characters along the way as well. In this case, we're meeting part of the militia forces and regular forces that came to put the Whiskey Rebellion down in 1792. And of course, students have a lot of questions over things like this, including, of course, is your hat real? And of course, this chap is very good. He's a former counselor and did an excellent job with this group. But those are just some things that really, really count. Because they help us to remember that our community matters, that building young citizens into good, contributive citizens very much counts. And they also keep in mind that if we are going to really, really help students learn, as we've heard many times this morning, they have to be in control of the learning. They have to want to do this. This is highly intrinsically motivating. And most of all, that if they are given the creativity to do so, they will exceed all of our expectations. So, all of us here, are you willing? Do you know of the giants in your community who can give our young citizens a chance to be lifted up onto their shoulders, to break through the canopy of the forest, to see the places where we have been, and to also see where we are headed? Thank you.